Okay, so recording have started. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
And can you see my recording? Has it started?
Confirmed. Yes. Recording
Yes, it
started.
has.
Okay, nice. So, does anybody has any question before we start? Or should we just go? Okay, I assume silence has no question. So,
I think maybe by the time you proceed, because I know a number of us had have questions regarding the project, so maybe as you explain, if we have other questions, we have. Thank you.
all right, thank you. So, the project direction. So in this project, you are to use all the skills, knowledge, everything that you have gotten through this bootcamp to develop this project. And this project is not a one-time thing. You have to be creative with it. So it is unique to you. So there is no particular, let's say, how will I call it? Maybe there is a repo in which you have to go to, so it is unique. So you have to develop something all by yourself. So the main idea of this is I want us to use the knowledge that we have acquired during the boot camp to develop something creative. So, like I said, the project direction are rather more open-ended. You're able to make some of your own choices for type of deployment you implement, which service you want to use, and the nature of the application you develop. So, I'm just trying to read through. So you will develop a CI/CD pipeline for microservice application with either a blue-green deployment or rolling deployment. You will also develop a continuous integration steps as you see fit, but must at least include typographical check. That means what I mean by that is when you are doing your test, you should be able to do a lint test in the CI/CD to make your project stand out. To make your project stand out, you may also choose to implement other checks such as security scanning, performance testing, integration testing, etc. This is not compulsory. So once you have completed your CI project, you will set up a continuous deployment. So these continuous deployments will include push to Docker container. You have to build the image with, see, I'm still going to get there, but you have to build the image with any CI/CD tool, maybe with Jenkins, Apple CI, GitLab, anyone. Then use that same CI tool to push it to your Docker repo. So you can decide to use the AWS own, create your own custom registry with your own cluster, or you can use a third-party Docker repo, anyone you want to use. So once you have done that, you have create your image, you deploy it on your Docker Hub. So that image that you create and you deploy in Docker Hub, you can now create a small Kubernetes cluster for it. Anyone you want to use, maybe you want to use AWS, you want to create EKS on AWS, or you want to use Azure, or you want to use Google Cloud, depending on your proficiency if you have, or maybe you just want to use, what's it called? You want to use this Kubernetes cluster, what's the name now? Maybe you want to use Minikube, anyone that you want to use. So like I put here, you can either use AWS Kubernetes as a service or build your own Kubernetes cluster, or you can build your own. So to deploy this, if you are using AWS, then it is more preferable for you to use a cloud formation to deploy this project. So you can also use Ansible. So, but don't worry, I know this might be complicated for you, but this is not compulsory. But when we get to the check, you see which one is compulsory and which one is not compulsory. Preferable run this from Jenkins or Circle CI as independent pipeline. So I'm going to give us a sample later. So just chill. So now these are the steps. in which you are going to take. So there's a rubric in which you will follow. So it's down. So we'll go there. So these are the main criteria. You set up a pipeline, you build your Docker container, do a continuous integration and continuous deployment, then you deploy it. So let's start with step 1. So propose and that's the propose what's the scope of the project that you want to do. The first thing is plan what your pipeline will look like. I'm going to give you an example now in a repo. Decide which option you will include in your continuous integration phase. You can either use Akusa or Jenkins or anyone, GitLab, anyone that you know how to use. So you can pick a deployment type that you want to use, maybe blue-green deployments. So for your Docker application, you can either use an application which you come up with or use an open source application pull from the internet, or you have no idea, you can just use Nginx like Hello World. So what I mean by this, when someone was asking question about this application, when you did your Python class, that is, you write a Python code in which you can write something like Hello World, or we can just run an Nginx. Okay, let me actually show you something here. Okay. Okay, so let's go to Git repo. Is it here? Okay, just hold on a minute. Let me try and find the project here. Just a second. So I want to show you a Git repo in which you can just look at how it's done just for reference. Okay. So, okay, so let me put this here. So we have like something like this. So if you check this project now, this is just a simple project. And if you open the index.js, what is just showing us is welcome. So if I go to the endpoint of this project, what is going to give us is welcome. This is app version, just like you displaying hello world. So I can decide to change this one to anything, maybe hello world or anything, just a simple project. So that's what I mean by that. So you can see my Docker file. I just built just a simple Docker image here. So do you see just building just a simple Docker image here? So, so if you should see, this is my CI. This is my SAPU CI. What does this SAPU CI do? This SAPU CI try to build the image. So what this SAPU CI does is it build my image. Does it build the image? No. So what this does is it builds a, what's it called? Kubernetes cluster on AWS. So after building the Kubernetes cluster on AWS, it performs all these tests, these lint tests. Then also it builds Docker. You can see it builds Docker container. It builds a Docker container for me. And at the same time, it pushes it to Docker Hub. So if you can see here, okay, let me go to the job. So the first job is Docker file lint. It does a lint test. So it's build and push it. You can see this is the build and push job. So the first one, build Docker container. So after I build Docker with this, it builds the Docker container, then pushes it. Then after that, it creates another job that creates Kubernetes cluster on AWS. Then after that, this is another one for smoke test. We did a smoke test on the application to see everything works and all the dependence. So that's what you can see that. So you don't have to do complicated things like I did. So it's just a simple one. You can just do a JavaScript, just an endpoint, a front, just anything that you want to do, just to show maybe hello world, just as simple as well. Just want to check your creativity, how you are able to bring everything that you have learned together. So let me give you, okay, look at how my own clusters look like after I deploy it with this. So this is my SAP CI pipeline. So you can see it perform a lint smoke test, build and push the node. It creates an AKS cluster here. You can see. So because I use AWS, these are my cloud formation stack that was created. Then if you should look at it on Docker Hub, so after pushing it to Docker Hub, this is how it looks. You can see this is the image, the version 1. Then, so after that, so when I push it, there was a lint fail in the test. It showed there was a lint test, there's an error in the application. So this is a screenshot. Then later, it was failed. So the lint test passed. So yeah, I use Akusi, I can use Jenkins, you can use GitLab, you can use any one that you want to use. So, okay, let's go back to the project. So if you are using Jenkins, you can create a Jenkins master box and install the plugin you need. If you are using Saku CI, you can set up a Saku CI account. So it is the reason why I mentioned mostly Saku CI is because Saku CI is free and you have 3,000 credits every month. So you can run as many jobs as you like on Saku CI. Then you connect your Git repo, can set up environments and deploy the code. So pick AWS Kubernetes as your service, or you can put your own Kubernetes. You can use anyone that you want to use. You can either use AWS, or I'm just saying AWS. You can use it on Azure. You can use it on anyone. You can build your own Kubernetes cluster, or you can use Minikube or what's this other one? I've forgotten now. Let's go.
Microetis.
You can use that. This other one that you use in this your course, you use this Kubernetes environment. I want to try and remember Vagrants. Yeah, so you can use Vagrants. Anyone that you think it's okay. Yeah, very true. So then moving on, you after that, so you can use I either use CloudFormation to deploy your stack if you're using AWS, or you can use Terraform if you're not using AWS. If you're using other platform, you can use Terraform to build your environment. Then you should create EC2 instance. That is if you are using. So it should create a EC2 instance. Okay, so if you are not using your own environment, then you have to try and take note of the network settings and deploy your software to this instance. So okay, I think someone asked the question when I'm talking about an application, maybe Android application or web application. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You can have an hello world front end, back end, just something that is going to show. Like if you can even just use only, if you go to Nginx now, if you try and install Nginx and you go to the endpoint, you see welcome to Nginx, the screen, the front page of Nginx or anyone. So something that just give you an output. So you can decide to use your own, you can decide to use any. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of being creative. So to come up with something, then you can able to bring in together everything that you have learned in the lesson. So construct your pipeline in your Git repo, set up the step that your pipeline will include, then you configure a deployment pipeline. So make sure that you include your Docker file. You can see like the repo. So if you check the repo, just a moment. So if you check do I have it here? Just, okay. If you check this repo now that I sent, you can see I have my Docker file in the repo. I have my application file. I have my Circle CI. So this is part of what I also want you to set up in the repo when you are doing that. Include your lint step, both a failed lint screenshot and a successful lint. So but you might not, okay, try and include both. Let's see how creative you are with this. Let's see how creative you are. So push the image to Docker Hub using any CI/CD tools, just like I've shown earlier. Then perform build on your pipeline. Verify that your pipeline work as you design it. Then take a screenshot or Jenkins of the Circle CI or Jenkins pipeline showing the deployment and all the stage passed successfully. So let me show you something on my Circle CI. I hope I still have the project running. Circle CI. Okay. I hope I still have some of my projects here. Just a moment. Login. Login with GitHub. Okay. So let me just show you. Okay, let me just show you one of these that is, no, I don't think this is failed. I want to show you just one of this that is still ongoing. Oh, in it, I have this. Open. I think I still have what's this? Oh, okay. I don't have it. So even if you want to run one, let's say you run an hello world now, commit and run. So this is not, so, okay, this is even So looking at this now, if you just want to run this now, just an hello world, it has a template for you that you can run, but this have to be in your repo. Let me see, do I have an existing build? I don't have an existing build. You can see that I don't have an existing. Okay, let me see. I think I should have one project that is still ongoing. Okay, I just want to run it for just to see. Let me see. Do I have a sample one here? Okay. Oh, branch main. Oh, greater than 90 days. I don't have any of them again here in my circle CI. Okay, let's see if it's going to run in my repo. Okay, let's just see this workflow and see how it's going. Say hello world. So you can see from here, I just set up so now, so I can say, okay, my job as this is complete. So what does this does? If you should look at it, is spin up what an environment. Then after that, is prepare the environment variables. Although I don't have any environment variables, so this is just using the SAP CI environment variables anyways. So it check out the code that everything looks okay. Then it deploys it, and later I can see that the outcome is hello world. Just something like this. So if you see the same thing in my .ci file here, in my config file, what this does is like similar to what this is, but this is just doing different thing. So what I want this one to do is different from what this one is doing, but it's going to follow the same, it's still following the same process with that. So perform the build on your pipeline, verify your pipeline works as you desire. Okay. So take a screenshot of this early and this, make sure the name and instance, okay. Then take a screenshot of your kubelet command when you do get kubectl get node, then kubectl get pods to show that the pods is working. That's the deployment is successful. Their pods are running, and kubectl get service. We'll see that your service is working. Then take a screenshot showing that you can access the application after deployment. Then this is how to submit your project. Make sure you have taken all the screenshots you need as directed above and create a text file with a link to your Git repo inside the text file. Let it be in your Git repo. Zip up these screenshots and text file in a single document, and this will constitute your project submission. So, but before you submit, then this is what you should take note of. So this is each step, what is required. So create a Git repo with project code. So this is the specification. All project code is stored in your Git repo, and a link to the Git repo will also be provided. Then use image repo to store your Docker image. So here, so the project uses a centralized image repository to manage images built in the project. So after a clean build, image are pushed to the repository. So the repository we are talking about here is your Docker hub. So you push it to your Docker hub, then execute lint step in code pipeline. So code is checked against a linter and part of the continuous execution step, put it in your CI and CD. Then you build a Docker container in a pipeline. So you are not to build it locally. So you are not to build it locally. That's why I say in a pipeline. So you build it on your pipeline. that's where it's going to build. Like what I just did now, like the sample I did here. Yeah, it builds a Docker container, but the coin was what is built is hello world. So it's just like you having an application, and the only thing that the application, the endpoint of the application will give you an hello world. So it build an image for this hello world in this pipeline. You can see it builds everything here. So, and it give out the output here in my circle. So I didn't build the container locally. So I build it here. So after I build it here, I can push this one to my Docker hub, which is part of what you can see here. So if you check here, this builds the container. You can see, if you should know, this is the command to build your application locally. So instead of building locally, I put it in this pipeline, build it here. I input in my Docker hub password and my username. So immediately it build it. I ask it to log in with this. It logs in with this. So I build the image here. This log in into my Docker hub and push the image into my Docker hub. You can see from here. So the same thing here. So code is checked and okay, the project takes a Docker file and create a Docker container in the image. So you might have to specify the location of your Docker file in what you are building. So if you check my own repo here, if you check my own repo here, you will see the Docker file is here. You can see here, this is a Docker file. This is what it used to be, just a simple Docker file. That's what it's built. Then using the CI/CD tool, so you can either use Haku CI, I said earlier it's because it's free, or using Jenkins file. So if you are using Jenkins, then instead of the Haku CI, you have Jenkins file in your Git repo. Then give a screenshot of your Docker hub, shows the image, then screenshot of the CI interface, shows a successful build and deployment. So the Docker container is deployed to a Kubernetes cluster. So after you build it, push it to your Docker hub. So you have to deploy it to a Kubernetes container. The cluster is deployed with Terraform, like I said. So you can see from here, from this my own sample. Oh, why is this thing keep going away? From my own sample, yeah, I use the EKS, so it push it to the Kubernetes cluster on AWS. So you can see everything I did in this project is here. So I just use this pipeline that's everything that is done in this project is done in this pipeline. So it creates the cloud formation on AWS, everything. The only thing that I added is what my Docker file, then my application file, which is index.js, then just the package.json, just like what's it called? My JavaScript, because I'm using JavaScript. So if you check here, so this is my deployment. So this is my deployment file that deploy it to my Kubernetes cluster. So this is the deployment kind. This is service. So this one could create 3 different replica of pods. And this is the service that is running on. So you can see that if you're very creative, you don't really need a lot of things here. Then use blue and green deployment or rolling deployment. So this one, the project perform the correct steps to do a blue-green rolling deployment. So if you are doing it on Circle CI, like the way I did it, using that as reference, it's more like a blue-green. So submit the following screenshot as evidence to the successful completion of a choosing deployment methodology. Then screenshot of the Circle CI or Jenkins, like I said earlier, showing all stages passed successfully. Screenshot of your instance running as a cluster node. Then screenshot of your Kubernetes command output zone. When you deploy it, maybe you see OC. So why am I saying OC? Anyway, OC is just a command for OpenShift. I don't know if any of you know about OpenShift. It's another flavor of Kubernetes. So screenshot of your Kubernetes, kubectl get node, kubectl get deployment, kubectl get service and get pod. Then you give that here. Then give an evidence that you can access your application. Then these are just, just suggestions to make it stand out, but it's not compulsory. It's just to make it stand out. So I think that is just an overview of this. Any question? Do we have any question? Okay,
Hello, sir.
Isaac.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. So can you hear me? What's your question? We can't hear
Okay.
you.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought Isaac was about to ask a question. So
Oh,
my own
okay.
question was, firstly, I want to ask what's the LinkedIn doing? And also, you said we should take screenshot of our Kubernetes commands. Is
Yeah.
it that the instance, the EKS, the instance that we log into the server, is there where we'll be running the Kubernetes commands?
So if you create a Kubernetes cluster, you'll be
Okay.
able to
Okay.
access your cluster, right?
Yes. Yes.
So after you access your cluster, you go ahead to deploy your application in your cluster, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So when you set up your cluster, then this is your simple application that you have built up into an image, your Docker hub. You deploy this application inside your cluster.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes. Yes.
So you have a simple application that you have built. You put it in a Docker image, push it towards Docker container. You have it in a Docker container rather.
Container. Yeah.
Then put into a container registry, maybe your Docker hub, anyone you want to use, but just say Docker hub. So push it to your Docker hub. Then you set up your Kubernetes cluster. So after you set up your Kubernetes cluster, then write your deployment file. Then in your cluster, then your deployment file, let it push your image from your registry, right? That's the purpose of the image. Then let it pull your application image from your registry, then deploy it on your Kubernetes cluster. Am I making any sense?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Do you understand? So it doesn't have to be complicated. Do you understand? I just want to see like the uniqueness. How are you be able to understand all these things that you have been putting together? How are you be able to use it? And when you understand how we are going to be using it in a simple level, then you can now start, working on different projects together. Like, okay, I want to do this big project, then give you this big project, work on it, figure everything out yourself. Do you understand? So you have many things to, in IT is an open world, it's an open paper, open exam. And
Okay.
search online, and luckily you have ChatGTP. And I know many of you have been using this. It won't solve your problem, but it can help you to be creative. Like just find this creative way. Okay, I want to make it like this. So the main thing is for you, if you have a basic understanding, then there is nothing you can do. Then you know what to do, how to search, where to search. But if you don't have a basic understanding, it will be confusing.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Like Isaac, you have a question? Or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyone?
Can you hear?
Yes, we can. I can
Okay.
hear you.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. My question is the Terraform part. In the rubric, towards the index tables. So that was where I actually got confused.
Which
Where,
number?
I think number 5.
I didn't number it, so that's my bad. Okay,
Yeah.
let's say number 5. Yeah, right?
No, go back. Just go back a bit. There it says deploy using Terraform.
Deploy using Terraform. So that should be, I didn't put a number, so it's difficult. But let's see.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh,
So the
okay.
cluster is deployed with Terraform. So and I think even from your presentation now, you were talking mostly on Circle CI. So I wasn't clear where we are really deploying this things from, whether it's Circle CI, Jenkins, Terraform. So that's what I want.
So Terraform is infrastructure as a code, right? You are writing your infrastructure as a code with Terraform, or you are writing your infrastructure as a code with what? CloudFormation. So if you want to deploy any application, for example, let's say on AWS, you want to deploy an EC2 instance, instead of going to click, then you write a code for it using CloudFormation to deploy this application or these resources, right? So the same way, you can use Terraform to deploy what? Any resources that you want to deploy. Also, either on any of these cloud or on-prem, you can use what? Terraform. And if you are talking about Circle CI or Jenkins or anyone, it's like a pipeline. Do you get? It's a pipeline in which you use to what? To build your application and run when we are talking about continuous integration and deployment. Then when you want to use a pipeline to deploy your application, so that's when we use these CI/CD tools. Do you understand, or is this bit confusing?
Yeah, I understand. Clear, because there is one part that says we should do all of these things from our pipeline. No, so is it that for Terraform now, I can still do my infrastructure as a code and still make use of the Jenkins or Circle CI?
Yeah, so you can integrate it in it. So if you see this, so let me show you here. So this is where's my Circle CI? So this is building. So if you check this part now, creating EKS. So if you look at it, so the first step is I want to pull it for this Amazon AWS CLI image. This is where I want to pull this from. So the first thing this does, it's like it has its own container, like a container like this now. It has its own container. And inside that container, it's what it install kubectl and EKS. So when you have maybe you have a fresh system, you want to build your own cluster. So you install kubectl, then you install EKS. So after that, you now echo say create EKS create cluster. So you know this one now is what was it called? Is a command on AWS. So and note that you already have your environment variable stored in your Circle CI. Do you understand? So if you look at this now, it's creating all this. Is that a public key that's already been created before? So that public key is what is allowing this Circle CI to connect to my AWS instance and create this thing on the AWS. So this, even if I'm using, so it's more like I'm using CloudFormation, but it's not on AWS. I don't go to AWS to create this CloudFormation. I'm creating it here inside this pipeline. So the same way I can have Terraform commands here. Are you getting me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm
So
getting you.
yeah, you can see here, this one, they are AWS. So inside this container, it pull on an image, AWS image, it check it out, then install this thing, then it create this using this. So this public, it create everything, it create it inside so you will see here in my screenshots that this thing is created on AWS. This is the cloud formation that is created, right? You can see this is the cloud formation template, stack rather, that is created. But I didn't log in, and this is the EKS cluster that is created. But I didn't log in to what? To my AWS to use cloud formation. I use it here. I hope you get it. So here, you can use a Terraform command here. Do you understand?
Yes, yes.
So
So just let me echo what you're saying. Like um, um, Terraform or CloudFormation, you could integrate it inside the CI,
yeah, it's inside
right?
a pipeline.
Pipeline. So, but then, what confused me was Terraform has a .tf extension, and this is a YAML file. So I was
Mm-hmm.
wondering, should I just do everything with the .tf and link all my .tf files and all, or I will still have to
So
write this Circle CI like this and then integrate
so
Terraform inside?
so the same question you're asking now is like, how will you use this one to deploy your Kubernetes cluster?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Is it similar?
Yes, 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 yes.
Whereas Kubernetes, we have its own YAML file, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So now look at this now. Deploying version 1, this is Kubernetes. So when this is up, then I've created my AKS cluster. Then the next thing I ask you to do is kubectl apply -f version 1.yaml. What is version 1.yaml? That is my Kubernetes template. This is my deployment, my service, what's it called? Definition file. It's in my repo. So I just tell this Circle CI that kubectl apply this file, right? And I
Yeah.
ask it destroy the cluster. And this destroy cluster is a command that I've put in the beginning. Like once I use this commando on fail, AKS delete cluster, name this diagram. So once it does that, it will destroy the cluster. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you want to include your Terraform here, Terraform will have its own .ts file, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Then you can include it inside this, like I include the definition file, right? Do you get the point?
Yes, I got it. Thanks. So, but in addition to, like, maybe you forgot the other person's question. You asked about LinkedIn, and I was expecting to hear about.
Oh, okay, yeah. So LinkedIn is just to test your application to see if it's going. Like for example, let me give you a screenshot of this LinkedIn failure. So when you check this, it's checking my index.jx, right? So the link is just to check my own application file to see for code errors. When I'm building it up in a Docker file, maybe there is a code there was a mistake. So if you check the error here, it was like ESA lint index.jx. That was what it was checking. And it will give me a direction to where the problem is. It was the problem is npm, npm install. That is with the application inside. Maybe when I'm trying to do install, maybe there was an application, maybe this what was it called? This application that didn't fully install, and there was an issue with my own application, maybe the Hello World application itself. So that's the purpose of the lint test, just to test the application that I want to run, that this application is up and running itself. Do you understand? Before it's package it up in an image, in a container, and push it to the Docker, because that's the image you're going to push in your cluster. So if your application is not running, you won't know. So that's why we do some tests in it. For example, the smoke test. Can't I open this in another page? Okay. You can see here, I did a link test. So if you look at this link test, just a small one, npm install. You can see that this npm install now, when we do npm install, you have all your module files. Some might not install, some can install, some package might not be compatible, all those ones. So the lint is going to check everything. You can see npm run lint, just to do a lint test on it and see, okay, my application is up and running. Then you can see here that I still do something we call the smoke test. So the smoke test is check inside my cluster to see that everything is okay. Like you can see now, when I install this kubectl, I install the dependency. So when I install dependency, I install JQ. So the dependency of all the application I want to put up, I have to put it in a smoke test to test it very well, that is this thing working perfectly before my application is packaged up and being used. Do you get?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Latif, question, like we are running out of time. Latif, you raised your hand.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, sir. I have about three questions. So the first is clarification on something. So from my understanding, we will have for example, a circleci.yaml file for the pipeline, for the CI pipeline, or let's say Jenkins or YAML file for the CI pipeline, depending on what Jenkins you're in. Then we will now have another Terraform. It depends if we decide to use modules, Terraform modules. We'll have maybe the main.tf and other and all of that. If I'm right, that is one. Then two, I want better. Okay, I think the LinkedIn test, I think I understand it better, but if you can explain it better, if you are,
okay. So I explained the lint
to be
test.
welcome. And smoke test. What is the essence
of what?
The smoke test. What is the essence? Smoke test. And ordinarily, you said those tests, for example, the link test, when you're explaining to the last person that asked the question, you said it's to show an error. Ordinarily, the pipeline too will show, and like if it fails, definitely it will tell you where the error is coming from. Or is it that the link test will show specifically directly that, okay, this is where this is the line of code in the what's it called, in the circleci.yaml file or the Jenkins or YAML file that is causing the error.
Okay, so you are mixing
Then what
it
is
up.
the essence of the smoke test?
So you are mixing it up.
Sorry, sir.
So when we are talking about this lint test.
Okay, lastly, my last question is just give us a brief explanation of what's it called, this deployment method, blue-green deployment and rolling deployment method. Which one is more suitable for what we are trying to achieve, and what are the pros and cons of both deployment and method? Thank you, sir.
Okay, so now let me start from, we are mixing this test up. So when you're talking about lints, it is not for your Circle CI. It is testing your application itself. So maybe I have a Node.js application. I'm a web developer now, for example, and I develop this website. Okay, let me just quickly do this. Let me put a pictorial view to make this. Okay, do you have any repo here? Okay, let me just see. Ugh. I just want to build, just give an image to it so you understand what I'm saying. Okay, let's assume we have this audio file, for example, right? As a developer, you
Mm.
develop this website.
Mm.
So when you develop this website as a developer now, you will package this up put it in an image, push it to your Docker up, then pull it from your Docker up, deploy it on your Kubernetes, right?
Mm.
So this application itself, when you build it, it can run on your system.
Yeah, it should run on your system
It
locally.
can run on your system, but on another system, it might be an issue. So that is what Docker is solving, right?
Yes.
So when you are trying to do npm install, trying to bring all the packages you like, this one now is installed with React. When you are bringing everything together now, trying to do everything, maybe there's an application error when you are piling your code. Do you understand? That is what the lint tests. So there are different tests. There are many tests. So that's part of what the lint will test. And if you are talking about smoke test, that's another deep test. So this smoke test, you don't really necessarily, I'm just using as an example. So this smoke test both the front end connectivity to your back end. Maybe from this application
Okay.
now, maybe when I try to do, okay, let me say I went to this product, I add one to carts, is in my cart, I do checkout, I have it here, checkout, but this is not connecting to my front end, or there's an application that, okay, maybe my front end is not, my back end is, front end is not connected to my back end, there's a connectivity issue, all this and this. You can also test for that. You can use a smoke test, you can use different type of test to
Okay.
test for it. So these are just to test your application, not
Okay.
the Circle CI itself. So this are part of,
Okay. Understood.
like when I was still a web developer, I developed some application like all these ones now. If I want to now, like I want to package it up and deploy it in Kubernetes, there are many things I have to test, like say, okay, everything is okay. Do you get? So
Yeah, I
that's that.
understand.
Okay. Then which other question? Remind me again. So what's the other
I
question?
was trying to make a clarification on the last question about the Terraform and the
Okay. So, and on the
Jenkins, the
Terraform,
pipeline. To a separate YAM. Okay.
so like you can see here now, let's say for example, this is your
Go
Kubernetes
ahead.
now. This Kubernetes now, you can use this another separate definition file on its own, right?
Mm.
This is what deploy this application that I've built on Kubernetes cluster. So if you look at it now, you can see that it's pulling the image from my Docker hub, which is the address.
Yes.
It's creating a container.
Yes.
So it will create a service for this deployment, and I asked it to create 3 replica. So we have 3 replica of it.
Yes. Of
Do you
the
of the
container
application of the yeah? So it will be running in 3 different container, like 3 different pods.
pods. Yes.
Yeah. So I have one deployment, 3 pods, 3 replica. Then it will create a service for each of them, right? So you can see now when I now put it
Okay.
in my config file, here in my config file, after installing my Kubernetes cluster with this, I say kubectl apply this. So it applied this file in my what? In my cluster. Do you
Yes.
understand now?
Yes.
So if you have a Terraform also, you have a separate file, you can do what? You can do the same. But I think, okay, let's
All
do it
right.
like this. I think the Terraform part is kind of confusing, right? So maybe let me remove the part for Terraform for you. So I can see maybe it might look complicated, but honestly,
Hello,
it's not
sir. You know, we can
complicated.
use Terraform to deploy Kubernetes clusters.
Yeah, so you are not
No,
only
it's not.
deploying, You are not only
Me,
deploying
I was just trying
Kubernetes
to make a
cluster.
clarification.
Okay, yeah, I understand. So you are not only deploying a Kubernetes cluster.
Yes.
So you are doing many things at the same time in a pipeline. You are building image. You are using that same pipeline to push it to Docker. You are not building anything in your local machine. Technically, you should build this Docker image on your local machine, right? And you should have it on your local.
Yes.
But you are not doing anything on your local machine. You are using this pipeline to build this, then use that same pipeline to push it to your Docker hub. Use the same pipeline to create your Kubernetes cluster, and using the same pipeline to deploy on this Kubernetes cluster. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. I understand.
Very, very well, sir. Very well.
So
So
it's just like,
the last
okay,
question is the last question is regarding the deployment pattern. Green, blue, green, and during deployment. Which one is more suitable for what you want to do? And what are
so
the features of
we
both
have
deployment
different
patterns?
types of deployment. We have the canary, we have the blue green, we have different one. So, but in this case, it's more like a blue green, in which you have, like looking at this, you have 3 replica, right? From this definition file, from this definition file, you have 3 replica. Yeah. So your 3 replica is up, which is your blue. You have your other 3 replica. Maybe we have another one, which is called. So let's assume your application is running now. Do you understand? This is your blue. I want to create another application. So your blue is running, then you deploy another one, which is green. So you keep on bringing the other one down, or you divert what's it called, the traffic to one, and see how does the user, maybe you could divide it to green. How does the user see it? Do they like it? And another endpoint to blue. So you have 2 different applications running at the same time. So when we are talking about canary, it's just like maybe you have 50% of your application of the old one and 50% on the new one. But in this blue, that means you have all of your application 100% running, another one 100% running. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So one is more like you have 2 different, the same application but different feature. So one you direct maybe 30% to one application, then 70% to the other application, then you are seeing the user reaction. So sometimes when you see Google bringing a new logo, some people might see it, might verify just to see the text, what is the reaction, if they like it. Then if they don't like it, and the user are complaining, they will just revert back to the old one. So in this one, we have both the old application running fully, the new application running fully. Then in now what? If one is better, then once the deployment is okay, then you bring the other one down, then the new one is now running. Do you understand? I don't know if I'm looking for a better way to explain.
Yeah,
So,
sorry.
but the
Just
thing
Yes, sir.
is, don't let
um,
the
um,
name
okay, sorry.
don't let the
I
name
wanted.
confuse you.
Has it been infected here in this code? The
Which
blue
one?
green,
So,
like switch. I don't know which part of the code explains the blue green now, because I only know that this is three
okay.
replica.
So the
Yeah.
thing is, don't let this confuse you. So with these 3 replica, it's just assume that you are creating a 3 replica of this application, right? Running. So this is just like a template of like a blue-green application. So you don't really need to think in that area. Maybe you have a switch that will switch it to another application. No, 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 no. So don't let the world do. It's just like you are creating a deployment with 3 replica. So let's that blue-green, excuse me, let's break it down to just a common language so it won't be confusing. So might not decide, might not use 3 replica, it might create 4 replica, 5 replica. But once it's just more than one, do you understand? So don't think about like the way they explain blue green. You have a switch, you will switch it to one application, switch it to other application. No, 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 no. So the main thing is there is just what it means in the blue green the main simple term is create replicas of this application. Do you understand? So don't be confused about the blue green. Maybe you're using canary or wool. Don't be confused about that. So just the main point there is just like create replicas of your application, which is like this. Do you
Okay,
understand? So just like create, so don't let the blue green confuse you, just like you are creating a replica of your application.
Sorry, can you come again with the last explanation, sir?
Which one?
The blue-green deployments and
Yeah, so I said
how.
the blue green is just like you create, if you check my screen, it's just you creating replicas of your application. So you can see here that you have just a single deployment, but you are creating it in 3 replicas. Do you get? So just take that as a blue-green deployment.
So what if? So I want to get it clear now. What if there is a minor change, and then the pipeline deploys new sets of artifacts, or so how would it now be 2 versions? I'm trying to understand. I don't know if you get my understanding.
So if you can see here, if you can see the way I named this version 1, right? If I create another template file, like let's say version 2, so in my
Okay.
Kubernetes class, so this
Okay.
one is just one version. You can see that's why I name it version 1. I can say version 2. I have 2
Oh,
different
okay.
and deploy both. But in order not to be
Okay.
confusing for you, that's why I just say, just have it in mind that you are just deploying replicas. So that's what is meant by the blue green. Do you get? So
yeah, I guess that
that's
was what
just
I,
it.
or maybe
Yeah.
during the lessons we took, the rolling update, for example. I remember they creating, I mean, pulling another image, right, in order
Mm-hmm.
to do the rolling update. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, okay, maybe we create
So
2 versions of
no,
our.
don't need that. So like that now, if you check this now, you see this is V1 now. Maybe I ask V2, V3, V4, and I have another definition file. I can ask that other version to pull from the second version and deploy. Do you get? So yeah, I
Yeah.
just have just one version. You can create different version of this image, then it can pull from that version that you want. So you don't,
Yes.
let me see if I can just check. If anybody has a question, I just want to check if I still have, and I have some application in my Docker. I just want to show you like different version of an application. Oh, I don't know if I have my login here. Okay. Okay. Okay, so you can see like I have different application here now. Looking at this, I have different version. I have latest, I have V1. Do you get? So if I want to pull for me, I can pull the latest, or I can pull my V1. Just like what I
Okay.
did here. Now this I'm pulling the V1. It's not same this. Okay, let me see other that repo. It's not that same repo. I'm just, let me see what. Okay, like this. I don't know how many version I have. Okay, so I have like several versions here. Good. So I'm using this version now. This is V1 that I use, right? I can deploy using V13. I can deploy using V2. It's just the tag that will be what if I can stop using V8.
Yeah.
So I'll just come here, change it to the version I'm using.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any other question? Time is fast spent. But let's just take one
Okay.
more question
I
if you
think you've
have.
answered almost all the questions. Just for confirmation, right? Though I'm not very sure I'll be using the Terraform, But now that Terraform, we can have all our Terraform scripts in this same document. So
Yes.
probably in this pipeline, we'll just have like a bash script line that will just be running the Terraform script, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So the main thing here is be creative. Okay. So you
Yes,
can
sir.
see here, it's just pulling this image, pull complete. It's use this image version, blah, 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 blah. It runs this bash script, blah, 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 blah. Just bring up your, or just be creative, just create something.
Okay, sorry, I have one final question from my side.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether I went through the everything in that lessons, but the Circle CI/CI/CD was more on Jenkins, and it's looking like this Circle CI is more advantageous, kind of. So, do you have
So the
any link?
reason why I say you should use this Apple CI is because it is free. You can have as many 3,000 credits every month. You can build many pipeline. You can see my own pipeline. I've built a lot of projects here, and it's
Hmm,
free. You can't do that on other platform. My pay, I think
and
GitLab also is okay. I've used GitLab to deploy and do many projects, so you can
so I
use
was
it.
thinking on that platform for learning the code
Yeah.
cloud, do we?
So it's
Do
not
we?
there, but the main thing is if you have idea of Jenkins, you can set up a Circle CI. What you just need to do is open the documentation. Just read their This is the documentation. You can in the documentation, it's going to show you how to do everything you want to do. Like you open it now, open pipelines. It will show you how how to build the image, job and steps. It show you what to write is a sample code. You see, this is it. If you want to write a simple image, like you just want to echo this, so you just read. If you have the basic understanding in Jenkins or anything, you can easily come through here, check the documentation, do the deployments, and just use it like that. So everything, your Kubernetes, documentation, Docker, go to the documentation, open it and check. You're going to find solution to everything that you need. Do you
Hmm,
understand?
yeah, thank you.
Any other question?
Not from here. Nope. Nope, sir.
Okay. So on a final note, the bootcamp is going to we concluded September 13, that is when we are going to last day for the submission of our project. And hopefully by September 20, we'll be starting the second cohort. So you can tell your friend, people that will be interested. Note is also free. It's free, but this time we will be leveraging on different platform and this is the first one we are doing. It's a proof of concept. So we keep improving on it every time. And now the second bootcamp we are going to improve on it and do a lot of things. There's a lot of automation in which we do manually. So maybe those that are offended through the bootcamp based on deadline or too many tasks or other things, don't be offended. It's just part of what we need to do to help ourselves. When you see something that is free, many people have to abuse it or just do anyhow, and we want it to actually have a meaning. If we want to do anything at all, then we really want to do it and make sure that it's really help a lot of people. So that is why it's like that. So this time is, should be more like automated, and we have updates. So if you have any people that want to apply that will have interest, try and tell them. And if you have like testimonies through the bootcamp also, you can share. And if you are comfortable or okay to also put it on social media, it's okay. You can also reach out to your UCI. We can, go about that. That is if you want to. It's not compulsory. You're comfortable doing that. Yeah, so that's all for today.
Yeah, somebody asked on the on the chat that those who didn't
Okay,
make the first stage, all right, if they should be
let
able
me
to apply
check the chat.
first.
Those
then
what?
I also question.
I'm trying to check the chats. Just a minute. Oh,
It's here on in Zoom.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to navigate. Okay, the question is, can those who didn't pass the first stage come for the second cohort? Well, it depends. You can try. Yeah, of course you can. This time around, we'll be accepting a lot of application. The first cohort, I didn't really advertise it because I don't want a lot of people. I just put it inside the community WhatsApp group, and we still have like 60 something application. Then is it 60 or something? I can't remember. Then, but this time around, we are using another platform, and there will be a lot, so it might be massive. So once you apply, it's not, of course, not everybody that will be selected, but that will not disqualify you because you didn't make the first one. You won't disqualify you, but then this time around, it will be more competitive. So yes, you can apply.
Yeah, so I have a question. Sorry, I
Okay,
don't know
that will
whether
be the last.
there will be time we're going to have the interaction on social media and all. So ask the question as per what is the light at the end of our submission? What's next after our project submission? How can we start maybe linking up to see these little projects we can live projects we can start working on, or maybe
Yeah, so
side
okay,
also kind of.
so let me quickly answer that. So next in the there should be two sections for LinkedIn and GitHub optimization. So we'll be doing that one. Then after then, like this will now be for those that will be interested. There will be project that you will work on, and if you want any collaboration, then that will be available for you to work on. Did I answer your question?
Okay,
And
yes.
I
Answer this.
know I said earlier, like there is a possibility, so it's not something that is certain for some people to get another scholarship for certification. So we're seeing into that, but I won't give more detail now. Do you get? So people that, let's see how it goes.
Sorry, which certification in particular, sir? I'm just curious.
Okay, I won't say that now. So you get to know, but it's going to be something that will be worthwhile.
All right, sir.
Yeah. So that's for
Thank
secondly,
you, sir.
and so you can also start working on health projects, and you can link up for me to bringing up a project, trying to solve some tasks and go like that. Yep. So I think to answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. So at this point, we call it a day, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Thank you
thank you
very
all,
much.
and I wish you all the best in your projects. So let's see how
Thanks.
creative you are, and we meet again.
It's all right, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much.
Yeah,
So much.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good
Yeah,
night.
bye-bye.
Yeah.